By our County Council, Mr. Tony LaBeouf, if you please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, Ann, would you please read the statement of meeting procedures?
Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting of July 7th, 2009. Agendas are available on the wall outside this meeting room. If you are here to speak on an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. When you speak, clearly state your name and address for the record. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker, which will be monitored by a timer on the podium. If there is a person speaking on behalf of a group with no other testimony from another member of the group, please identify yourself as such, and your time may be extended at the pleasure of the board. Keep in mind that the chairman has a discretion of limiting the total discussion time on any item. If you are hearing impaired, we have listening devices available. It is requested that all pagers and cell phones be either turned off or put in the silent mode. Thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you, Ann. It's time for public comment. Any member of the public may address the Board of Supervisors for 3 minutes on any item that is not currently on our agenda. Is there any member of the public wishes to address the Board at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Consent agenda, I understand item 26A has been requested for removal. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
I don't know if there's any super.
Oh, thank you,
I don't
Mr.
have one.
I referred to you as Mr. Chairman, didn't I?
Well, I carry the mantle.
Yes, you do. Mr. Holmes, Supervisors Committee reports. Thank you. Breezed right past that. Any members of the board have any committee reports? Yes, Ms. Montgomery?
I don't actually have a committee report, but I wanted to take this opportunity to thank my district aide, Rob Haswell, who will be leaving Placer County's employ on Friday. It will be his last day, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank him personally for just doing such a fantastic job and really helping me ease into my first 6 months here on this board, and just credit where credit's due. He's been great. I'll miss him. He's being replaced by Pat Malberg, so I won't miss him very long, but just really wanted to give him a shout out.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, at this time, we will then take consent. Item 26A has been removed, not for purposes of discussion, but simply to be brought back later, I believe, at our Tahoe board meeting, probably. Any board members have any consent items they'd like removed at this time? Any member of the public have anything on consent they'd like removed for discussion? Okay, do I have a motion on consent?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Mr. Holmes. So we'll have a roll call, please.
Montgomery?
Aye.
Wygant? Holmes?
Aye.
Euler?
Aye. Thank you very much. A little early for our 9:15 timed item, so let's jump to some department items. Item number 7, Administrative Services Procurement. Stepping up to the microphone at this point.
Indeed. Good morning.
Morning.
Well, Facility Services has a sewer maintenance truck that's reached the point where they can't even drive it on public roads. So, item 7A is requesting your board's approval to award a purchase order as a result of a City of Roseville competitively awarded contract with Riverview International Trucks of West Sacramento for one truck-mounted Vector 2105 series combination catch basin sewer cleaner. That's a sewer maintenance truck. Facility Services Environmental Engineering Division will use this truck to clean sewers, lift stations, and to respond to emergencies like sewer spills. Riverview Trucks was the lowest price of 3 bidders on the Roseville bid, which was awarded on December 8, 2008. Placer County will buy the same equipment at the same price as the Roseville contract, and we would not expect to beat this price if we conducted a new bid at this time. Staff requests your approval for the purchase in the amount of $365,902.50.
Okay, any questions by board members? No? Okay. Any questions by any member of the public? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Wygant, seconded by Supervisor Holmes. Under discussion, Mr. Durfee, I understand that once this piece of equipment is acquired and put into service, you've got an open invitation to any board member that wants to have a ride-along for that.
We will make those arrangements.
Anybody who wants to see this thing in use. And all right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you very much. Moving on to 8A. Mr. Zicker.
Good morning, Mr. Euler, members of the board. Item 8A is a request for your board to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution to adjust our plan check and inspection fee spreadsheet to reflect an inflationary cost of 2.5%. This is the project. This is the method by which we use to recoup costs from development community for checking improvement plans. As you may know, our county code requires us to adjust this annually based on the engineering news record cost of doing business, cost of construction. We have an unusual circumstance this year. If you look at the engineering news record numbers between February of 08 and February of 09, which is what our code requires, it shows an increase in the cost of 5.4%. A little bit further analysis reflects some interesting changes in that from February of this year to July of this year, currently, the index has been almost flat, an increase 0.4%. Taking an average between July and July of the previous year and this year, it's an average of about 3.2% increase. So what we would suggest to your board is that we adopt an increase in this plan check fee spreadsheet of 2.5%. Kind of splitting the difference, trying to allow for some of the increases that have occurred, kind of looking at the future and seeing things holding flat. So with that, our recommendation is, and contained in your board item, a recommendation that you adopt the 2.5% increase. And what happens, if, as you may recall, is, and attached to your board item, are a series of construction costs that were used for estimating of public improvements for projects. And on those costs, we base our percentage of plan checking fees. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members have any questions? Any members of the public have any questions on this item? Chair will entertain a motion. Moved by Supervisor Wygant, second by Supervisor Holm to approve item 8A. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed? None? Thank you very much. Wes, why don't you continue with B?
I'll keep on going here. I'd like to discuss items B and C together briefly and then ask your board to take separate actions. These two items concern North Star Village project, which, as we all know, has been basically constructed for some time now. There have been some minor glitches along the way, but the projects are both ready for acceptance of the improvements as complete. And I say both projects, and there are two board items. North Star was designed as 4 phases, 1, 2, 3, 4. The developer chose to build 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together. So we have 2 separate packages for your board. The recommendation is that you accept the improvements as complete, reduce the security, and I will discuss this briefly again for both projects, and adopt resolutions that would eliminate, abandon some water and sewer easements within the properties. When the village project was first proposed, we and North Star CSD assumed there would be a lot more public water and sewer improvements through both phases, all 4 phases actually. When it actually got built, NCSD has told us that they do not intend to maintain a fair amount of the services that were built within the project. So with that, we're recommending that your board adopt resolutions to abandon some easements that are excess and are no longer needed for public maintenance of water and sewer facilities. Going back to the security issue for a moment, phases 1 and 2 together, the project developer posted over $5 million in security. For 3 and 4, they posted security of about $1.8 million. Those items, as I say, are ready for acceptance. What we're recommending to your board is that we retain a security amount for projects phases 1 and 2 for the public improvements that are still subject to a warranty period by the county and or NCSD. The bulk of the improvements for both projects are private. And 3 and 4, they're exclusively private. There are no public improvements within 3 and 4. The staff doesn't see a need for the county to retain a warranty security for those private improvements for the next year. Hence our recommendation for phases 1 and 2, that you reduce the security as noted on page 45 of your board memo, and that we release all the security for phases 3 and 4 as noted on the board memo on page 65 of your board package. A little bit complicated, but bottom line to us is these are private improvements. It's extremely unlikely the county would ever, A, be involved in a warranty claim on the landscaping or the paving within the North Star project. And secondly, it just makes sense to release the security if we're not going to use it and ever have a call on it. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and look forward to your recommendation.
Any questions? Any members of the public have any comment on this item or questions? Okay, then action on item 8B, and then we'll move on 8C separately.
Move approval of item 8B.
Okay, we have a motion, item 8B, all-inclusive, 1, 2, 3, and 4, unless council tells me otherwise. Motion by Supervisor Holmes, second by Supervisor Wygant. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you. And on item 8C, do we have a motion?
Move approval, item 8C, items 1, 2, 3, and 4, as reflected on page 3 of our board packet.
We have a second. Thank you. And just quickly, did any member of the public have any comment or question on this? Seeing none, we have motion Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Wygant. Item 8C, all inclusive. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. All right, Wes, thank you very much. Mr. Durfee, let's go ahead and jump to your item. Facility Services, the Sheridan Spray area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Jim Durfee with Facility Services. I have a recommendation today that concerns the acquisition of a piece of property in Sheridan for use as wastewater spray fields. Specifically, we would recommend that you adopt a resolution delegating authority to the Director of Facility Services or my designee upon approval, of course, by Risk Management and County Council, to execute all documents and take all actions necessary to complete the acquisition of approximately 16 acres of undeveloped land identified as parcel number 01925000600, located in Sheridan, and we've been referring to this as the Percival property because it belongs to the Percival Family Trust. Also, that you authorize the addition of the property to the Master Fixed Asset List. Your board will recall that we've been working for a number of years to accommodate upgrades to the Sheridan wastewater treatment facilities to meet regulatory requirements and to provide some expansion to that system for development of additional parcels within the community plan boundary areas. This is an integral part of that process. We require additional spray field to dispose of treated effluent in a regulated fashion. This is pasture land, essentially, is what this is. What we'll be doing is irrigating during the summertime when the conditions are correct for evaporation, transpiration, and percolation of that water per our permit. The purchase price of the property is $250,000, and we are working with the small community, can't find it on here, small community wastewater grant program, and they have indicated to us that they're going to provide about 86% of this money back as a grant to the Sheridan community. And we're also working with that same agency on grants for the development of the actual spray field once we own the property, installation of the irrigation system and so forth. The action is not subject to any further environmental review. We did a mitigated neg deck on the project in 2007, and with that I would recommend approval of the purchase.
Questions by any board members? Just for clarification, to your knowledge, there is no relationship between this Percival family and the family of the individual from the Forest Hill area that ran for supervisor a few years back?
To my knowledge, there's no connection.
I want to make sure that was out there because that name might perk up some ears. Any members of the public have any questions on this item? All right, we have a motion for action on this item. Moved by Supervisor Wygant, second by Supervisor Holmes to approve item 9, 1A and B, and item 2. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we will take our 9:15 timed item. We have a resolution, I believe, a presentation of a commendation recognizing Justin, is it Coop, and Palmer Taylor? So Supervisor Wygant, you requested this item. I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thanks. We're fortunate today to have a couple of fellows in the audience with us who made what I think is an incredible documentary. And I would urge the promotional part of this, that I would urge all of you to get out and see it. If you're passionate about anything and or addicted like some of us are to fly fishing, through a friend I had a chance to be invited to a screening of their film, which was down at the Crest Theater in Sacramento. And as I understand, they're going to come up here and give us a chance to hear what they've done. But I think this is a film that anyone would enjoy, particularly if you're a Californian, and particularly if you're interested in the out-of-doors at all and or natural resources. But it's an incredibly colorful part of our history, particularly Californian history. It is a movie it's a documentary about the individuals and a time and place that is gone. But it reflects the evolution of those who became fanatic about fly fishing for salmon and steelhead in the north coast of California, in a fishery that 50, 60 years ago was phenomenal. And even for me, someone who spends a lot of time fly fishing and has had the chance to go to Alaska several times, I didn't realize how rich the resource was here in California for salmon and steelhead, and sadly how much of it has been lost, but hopefully can be regained through better conservation and management practices. Again, a little bit about the film. Tom Skerritt, who was one of the stars in A River Runs Through It, but also has done a lot of other films throughout a very colorful career, is the narrator. The film uses a lot of old 8mm clips as well as photographs and interviews with some of the people who were a part of this history, one of whom was 100 years old, literally, and other folks. Unfortunately, the two key folks that they describe, I guess both of them are no longer with us, but at any rate, I think, again, anyone who enjoys California particularly, and if you're a Californian, you enjoy the out-of-doors someplace, but if you have any connection or focus to the North Coast rivers, the Gualala and the Russian and the Smith, they did an amazing job in depicting all that. And as it turns out, one of them, Justin, is a resident, or was a resident of Granite Bay, grew up in Granite Bay. I have no idea how somebody so talented grew up in your district, Kirk, as compared to mine. But these two fellows met at UC Santa Cruz. Palmer actually is a physics major and wrote the music for this film. And Justin is actually, or was, a film major. But with that, I have a resolution for those folks. Going to bring them up, give them a chance to talk. I'm not going to read the resolution because it's self-evident, but I really wanted to talk more about what I think is an amazing film. And as I understand it, the film is out doing these previews as often as they can. It will come out on DVD, but be on public broadcasting also sometime, but I'll let them talk about all that. But again, congratulations. Great start to what I think will be a phenomenal career, and has a direct connection to Placer County and, of course, to me personally with my addiction to fly fishing. So if you two want to come on up.
Pleasure. Very much.
I'm going to take some pictures.
All right.
You know, this promotion.
We'll never forget that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah,
My father's also here. He was an executive producer on the film, Jeff Coop. He's lived here for 35 years, and then I grew up in Granite Bay, and really good job with the salmon habitat signs that are everywhere. Those are great, you know, and I know those have just shown up in the last couple of years, and things like that are really, really important. But we appreciate it. The film is actually showing at the Sacramento Film and Music Festival July 25th and August 1st at 11 a.m. They're going to show it 2 days, so those are Saturdays. But we appreciate it. We felt it was an important part of California to preserve, for an important history that wasn't getting done. So we put a lot of time and effort into it, and receiving things like this that recognize our effort and our work, we really appreciate. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything to add?
Not that I can think of.
Let me guess, you were the physics major.
Yes.
Supervisor Holmes, do you have a comment? Oh, yes, Mr. Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, Mike Boyle with the Executive Office. I had a chance to preview a snippet of this wonderful film, and with your indulgence this morning, we'd like to show you this 5 1/4 minute snippet of this great piece of work, and I agree with Robert, it's quite powerful, so if you'll allow us, we'll show that for you.
Absolutely.
But I saw these guys that I'd only read about, and I saw what they could do, and I wanted to be one of them.
They were like famous gunslinger, rodeo cowboy type, where every fly guy kind of knew who the other guy was, and it was a real quiet competition, but it was very obvious.
You know, and I looked down at the river, and it was like an armada, like a fleet of little boats no bigger than this desk, and they were all lined up in this pool, making the best casts I'd ever seen. These guys were doing stuff with fly rods that I couldn't have dreamed of doing.
And of course, there was the living legend. That was his nickname. That was Bill Shadd. And I'd heard all about him, and he was very secretive. He hid his car, he hid his boat. He was like a phantom.
Everybody can be sitting around, and there's no fish in the river, nothing. Bill Shadd's got a fish on.
Little by little, you've got to realize that he never stopped fishing from dawn till dark.
Does he have a wife or a job? Or nope. He's fishes. That's all he does. And he's the best fisherman that ever lived.
In the 50s and the 60s, he was not a very friendly guy.
He had an attitude, big one. I mean, if there was an attitude in those days, Bill had it. He had an attitude big enough for everybody.
Ted Lintner's group and Bill's group, sort of like oil and water in a lot of ways.
That became a real feud because that was kind of like a Hatfield McCoy thing.
And he pulls out a gun, and he shoots the salmon.
Oh, we thought, oh, no, come on.
It was always a game to try to catch more fish than the next guy. It wasn't a sport. It was more like gladiators. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it was intimidating. Anybody who knew they had a tendency to shun you to some degree. You had to pretty well prove yourself.
They didn't want you around if you know, you were going to park your boat in the wrong spot. You know, if you didn't know what the hell you were doing, if you couldn't cast.
There was a power in those rivers and in that fishery that seemed to produce either the best behavior or the worst.
The later years, it was tough fishing.
We never saw the numbers in the 50s or the 60s that we had in the 40s, so it was already on a downhill track.
I don't think we thought it was going to fall out that fast.
The scientists went to work and they said, not to worry, we can fix this. So the government said, well, go ahead and fix it. How are you going to fix it? We will raise them in artificial environments.
But the management agencies at that time were still in that attitude that you couldn't do anything about this. The economic forces were so strong that you just had to yield to them and do the best you could under existing conditions.
At that time, environmental regulations were, as you can imagine, pretty lax.
There were no timber harvest rules. There was no standard training or thinking about it. It was basically just get it down, get it out.
Essentially what we did, we cut all the fingers off of all the tributaries, and these ephemeral streams that only flowed part of the year were extremely important for both steelhead and silver salmon, and we lost all those because we allowed them to log up and down those ephemeral streams.
Those rivers were Bill's home. They were his front living room, his bathroom, his shower. I mean, he lived there.
So the fact that he goes down to fishing every day, just like he always did 50 years ago, still goes every single day that there's fishing. He's starting at dawn and he's quitting at dark, and he fishes all day and doesn't catch a fish, doesn't slow him down.
He had no wife, he had no kids, he had no great job, he had no property, he had no new car, he had nothing. That's all he had was fishing.
And he couldn't change it. He wouldn't have known how to change it. You know, that was his life.
So, lastly, couple of comments I'd like to make. One is, again, congratulations on what I think is actually an incredible film. Obviously, one that connects to me personally. But I liked it for several reasons. One, it is a part of the fabric of California history. To me, is akin to the gold rush, the railroad industry, the electronics industry. It's just a critical component of who and what we are. In this case, however, also it's a great study on conservation policy for those of us who are in the business. And when you think of the dynamics that affect salmon fish and steelhead fisheries, these fish, their incubator, as was mentioned, are the small rivers and streams, in this case specifically talking about the north coast of California, but they spend 3 to 7 years out in the Pacific Ocean, which is rather large and complex habitat in and of itself. So trying to figure out how you manage that is a challenge in and of itself. The film is really the story about the history and the people that are connected to that history, but the implications of it, I think, are just fabulous. And so I'd encourage you all to get out and see it. And again, thanks for you guys for coming up here. And again, congratulations and best of luck, not only with this, but as your careers evolve.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. We're going to proceed with our agenda. Feel free to slip on out at any time. Nothing that we have on the agenda is going to be anywhere near as exciting as that, nor as compelling. So, no slight to our department heads or anything else. When you make a cool film like that, come show us.
When will it be on Netflix, for those of us who don't live here in the theater?
Probably it comes out on DVD in October, so around Christmas time.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I guess we know what we're getting Robert for Christmas. All right, we'll move on to item 10, Health and Human Services. Who's presenting this one?
Good morning, Maureen Baumann, with Director of the Adult System of Care. Georgia Emsley's with me to assist with any questions you might have. This item is a request for approval of an administrative budget revision and request the board chairman to sign the 0809 Adult System of Care budget revision in the amount of $550,000. Background is that after adoption of the FY 0809 budget, Health and Human Services received approval from the County Executive Office to utilize anticipated state revenue to fund 5 positions which were within the Adult System of Care. This strategy was effective in mitigating some of the reductions of funds experienced during the year. the adult system of care will exceed its expenditure authority by the end of this last fiscal year, and the state-funded Mental Health Services Act revenue has been identified to offset this increase. The adult system of care has implemented an extensive structural reorganization in this last fiscal year and is definitely better positioned to manage continued decreasing revenues in the current fiscal year. The budget revision is again for $550,000, offset entirely with state revenue. No county general funds are affected, and those funds are continued into this 9-10 budget year for continuation of those services. So I'd be happy to answer any questions and recommend approval.
Great, thank you, Maureen. Any questions by any board members? Members of the public have any questions? I'm sorry, Jennifer, you had a question?
I did have one question, and it's really just a clarifying question. You're saying this is anticipated state revenue? What happens if we don't get it?
I'm sorry, we got it. We have the revenue.
Okay.
Sorry, it was anticipated at the beginning of the fiscal year, and we received the funds.
Great, thank you.
All right, any members of the public have any questions? Okay, we got a motion?
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Holmes, second by Supervisor Montgomery. This is a budget revision, therefore roll call is required.
Holmes? Wygant? Montgomery?
Yes.
Euler?
Aye. Thank you very much. Item number 11, Public Works. Finally going to get that Dick Cook Bridge thing going, huh?
Good morning, board members, Mr. Chairman. My name is Matt Randall, and I'm with the Public Works Department. I'm a senior engineer, and I oversee the bridge program. So this morning, we're asking the board to adopt a resolution authorizing the chairman to award and execute with County Council and Risk Management review and approval a construction contract for the Dick Cook Road Bridge with McGuire and Hester for $874 and $74470, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute contract change orders up to $100,000. So some background on this. So we're proposing to replace this bridge, as you know, which is structurally deficient. It's been on the books for a while. And some notable facts are that we've been to the MACs, the Granite Bay MAC and the Horseshoe Bar MAC, and met with the property owners so that they know we're coming. And one important thing I think Supervisor Euler mentioned too, if we're going to close the road on this project, and I think you asked that we give people plenty of warning, so we're going to do that. And then we actually received 12 bids on this project, so we're getting a lot of bids. And the low bid was significantly lower than the engineer's estimate. And so we feel like this is okay because we had 4 bidders that were all within 10%. And the second lowest bidder actually only left $10,000 on the table, so there was only a difference of $10,000. And this project is funded with the Federal Highway Bridge Program and a combination also of the Dry Creek watershed drainage fees and the Newcastle Penryn Horseshoe Bar traffic impact fee. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and recommend approval.
Questions by any members of the board? Any members of the public have any questions on this item? We have a motion. Motion and a second to approve item 11. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. And let's just go ahead and take care of Ms. Basana and get her on out of here before we jump to our timed item, since you're stuck here anyway.
That's right. Thank you, members of the board. Good morning. Your board is requested to approve the contract with Caltrans for a 3-year term effective July 2009 to June 30th, 2012 in the amount of $593,452. This is the 3-year contract amount. The amount for next year, 09-010, or I guess the current year, is $192,000. The background, this is a continuing contract with the state of California and started a few years ago so that the state didn't have the means to have a full-time crew out there, and the county also had a desire to have some road beautification. So we have contracted with Caltrans and the Department of Public Works, and so 1 day a week they serve the county and the county roads, and 3 days of work they work for Caltrans. So if you have any questions.
I don't see any questions by any board members. Any member of the public have any questions on this item? We have a motion. Motion by Supervisor Holmes, second by Supervisor Wygant to approve item number 12. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you very much. We will now move to our 9:30 timed item, redevelopment and community development block grant. Mr. LeBeau is presenting because Mr. Caldwell's stuck up here with us.
Better food here. Good morning, Jim LeBeau, Redevelopment Agency.
Oh, we're just going to move on. Just go ahead, Jim, please.
Good morning. The item before you today is to conduct a public hearing and approve the application for a grant of Community Development Block Grant funds of $400,000 to the State Department of Housing and Community Development for our Housing Rehabilitation Assistance Loan Program. Over the last 10 years, the county has applied numerous times for these funds and have been successful a number of times, and we have, in fact, run the program for a number of years and have successfully improved over 40 homes. The targeted area for this application is Kings Beach, where we have done extensive survey work just recently to document the conditions of the homes and identify the need in that community to do this program. So we're asking for the public hearing and authorization to put in the application, which is due by no later than July 14th.
All right, any questions? Yes, Ms. Montgomery.
I just wanted to comment on this and say, thank you for all the background research you've done on this and for applying. Kings Beach, as I'm sure we all know, is in dire need of this sort of help and funding. And if possible, let's go for it. I know July 14th is cutting it close, but let's make sure it happens.
Any comments or questions to staff? Any member of the public wish to address this item? Do we have a motion on item number 2?
Move approval, item number 2, community grants and loans.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Wygant to approve item number 2. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed? None?
Thank you.
Yes, we have about 20 minutes we'll take advantage of by working through some closed session items. Tony, if you will, please.
The board will go into closed session, take up the items on page 4. Item 13, there's one piece of litigation, there's some real property negotiations, and there's some labor discussions. We will be back at 10 a.m.
We did here?
Yeah, the board has returned from closed session. The only item we took up in closed session at this time was the real property item. It met with its real property negotiator, Mr. Durfee from Facility Services. The board listened to that report and gave direction. That closes this report.
A request that the board make some adjustments to some fees in the animal department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Starr, Director of Community Health Clinics and Animal Services. And the action we're requesting for you here today is to convene a public hearing regarding the proposed fee adjustments in animal services fees, to establish the new proposed fees via resolution, and to amend the existing ordinance in order to allow that fees be modified by resolution. It's been about 13 years since these fees were comprehensively reviewed and adjusted. There was a consumer price index involved in that review, but it hasn't been able to keep pace with our costs. And we have new and improved methodology in order to really more accurately capture our real costs and avoid passing costs on to the general fund. The cost methodology that was used for the fee study is based on the method used by the auditor, and includes labor, materials, overhead, countywide indirect costs, otherwise known as the A87, which I don't know what that refers to, but and with the goal of cost recovery for specific fee-supported activities. We estimate that about $75,000 additional fee revenue will come in as a result of these fees, and will, of course, likewise reduce that portion of the general fund subsidy that is provided to animal services each year. The next step in our methodology was to compare our fee structure to other jurisdictions around us and other agencies. Some of those haven't been adjusted for a few years, but still they were valid for comparison, and there are some examples in your package of how those comparisons played out, and in some cases we're in the middle, some cases we're a little higher, but in general we're pretty much in the ballpark. We also solicited input on the proposed fee changes from our nonprofit community partners, from breeders, and made the opportunity available to those that might be affected by the fees to at least give us some input in the process. The community partners in particular that participated with us were A New Hope, the Auburn Area Animal Rescue Foundation, Angels Rescuing Critters, Friends of Placer SPCA, Placer County Animal Services, and Placer SPCA also participated. So throughout that process, we ended up with the package that is here before you today. I want to acknowledge briefly the A team sitting behind me here, Mike Winters, our Animal Services Manager, Stan Hapak, our Fiscal Manager, and Pat Orm, our Assistant Director. They're the ones that really put this package together, did all the hard work, and I just get to sit up here and blather on. And they'll also be available for questions as well. Huh?
And you do it well.
Oh, okay. Appreciate that.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry.
That's fine. Probably a good time to stop. I do want to take just a quick moment while I'm sitting here blathering, but seriously to acknowledge and thank all of the Animal Services staff. Some of them, others were involved with these fees, but also for all the work that they do on a regular basis. As you all well know, just by the nature of our business in animal services, it can be sometimes thankless and sometimes very challenging work. And you've heard about it right here on several occasions. But despite that, our animal services team remains, I think, remarkably successful, working within the existing resources and facilities. We're very much looking forward to the plans for the new facilities, but still doing our services quite well with what we have at hand. We have a very low euthanasia rate. We only euthanize animals if they're not adoptable for either severe medical reasons or behaviorally they can't be placed. We have a very large volunteer pool that helps us leverage resources in the community and be able to maintain those services and low euthanasia rate. We have some great partners that help rescue animals, and the list just goes on and on. So, and of course it's not just dogs and cats. We have a gamut of different animals that we respond to their care and rescue and assistance. So with that, I'll stop on a high note, I hope, and answer any questions you may have.
Questions from any members of the board? Ms. Montgomery?
Thank you for this, and I did want to ask actually about the large animals. Do we have separate fees for large animals? I know the last time I was over there were 4 horses, I believe, that you were caring for.
Yeah, in the fee schedule, there are different adoption fees and other fees, fees for housing at the shelter. They do vary on species, between cats and dogs as well as between cats, dogs, and larger animals.
Okay, and are those horses still there? There were 4 of them last time I was there? There's 2. There's 2. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the board? Any members of the public wish to address the board at this time? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. We have a motion on item 7.
Move approval, Health and Human Services and Animal Services.
Motion and a second to approve item number 7, item number 3 on page 7. Item number 3, A, B, and C. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. All right, we're going to keep Ms. Bassano waiting a few more minutes while we jump back into closed session and maybe take up an item.
So I've been informed by Mr. Boyle that the 10:15 item was actually noticed for 10 o'clock, although there could be some confusion since our Brown Act notice in the agenda says for 10:15. Technically, I understand that the item was noticed for 10 o'clock. Is that correct?
That which went out to the public.
Yeah. And so I think we can go ahead and proceed on that item since it's consistent with the notice. If somebody shows up 10:15 and
we will hear them then.
We'll hear them then. But I think anybody that read the notice apparently would know that we're supposed to be doing this now.
Evidently, I didn't read the notice.
And no more caffeine for Tony today.
No. A whole lot more that Tony's not getting, actually, than just caffeine. Yes, please.
Members of the board, Barbara Bassano with the Sheriff's Department. We are requesting that you conduct a public hearing to hear the request for adjustments to the incarceration and booking fees and the jail access fees. We do a study annually where those fees are reviewed and adjusted for the actual from the prior year. And in this case, we are recommending that the jail incarcerations be increased to $167 per day, the minimum security to $66 a day, and the jail access fees to $393 a day. We're requesting that the booking fees that are charged to the cities be set at $129 per day. Currently, the state pays for those fees, and the only part that is charged to the cities is the amount of underfunding, which is currently at 10%. So the charge to the cities would be $12.90 for their bookings. The jail access fees are only charged to the cities for any of the misdemeanors above their 3-year average. So it's kind of controlled by the cities if they go over that or if they contain their misdemeanor bookings to that 3-year average level. So this is done by a study for the prior year on the booking fees. That's set by code. It's 50% of the rate of 2005-2006, adjusted annually by the CPI and 1%. The budget currently, we're not asking it to be increased. We just most of these fees are on the ability to pay for the inmates or those incarcerated, and that is pretty unstable as to what amount they are able to pay. So we don't recommend any adjustments at this time. We're available for questions.
Questions by any board members? Any members of the public have any questions on this item? And we have a motion on item number 4. Motion by Supervisor Holmes, second by Supervisor Wygant to approve item number 4. I guess the interesting thing about booking fees is that those impacted are typically reluctant or otherwise unavailable to show up to oppose them.
The 10 to 11 years I've been working for the Sheriff's Department, we have nobody from the public that has come to one of these public hearings. But
I don't think I'd be the one sticking up my hand saying, wait, because of what's going to happen next week, I'm opposed to this.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you.
So I think the board will now go back into closed session.
We will.
And we'll continue with the items on page 4 of the agenda. Be back at 10:30.
Yes, it was. It was so funny. All right, well, I'm sure Supervisor Montgomery is...
Another one that brings out the crowd, right?
Wait a moment. Oh, there we go. It's back. All right, I'm assuming that even though the video wasn't up, the recorder was going for Tony's report for closed session. So we got that on the record. Ann? Tony's closed session report got on the record. Thank you very much. All right, we will continue our board meeting with our 10:30 timed item, Community Development Resource Agency Planning Zoning Text Amendment regarding outdoor eating areas. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you today is a proposed zoning text amendment with regards to outdoor seating. This is one of our ongoing zoning text amendments that we will be bringing before the board. As staff was going through the zoning code, we found the current standards to be rather restrictive to businesses, and so a proposal was made to make amendments to the ordinance, and that presentation will be made today. Today's presentation will be made by Melanie Jackson.
Good morning, Honorable Board of Supervisors. This morning I'm here to discuss the zoning text amendment. This Board of Supervisors is being asked to consider this amendment related to outdoor eating areas as recommended by the Planning Commission on May 14th, 2009. The Planning Department proposes to modify Section 1756-190A, Restaurants, Outdoor Eating Areas, and amend Section 1704-030, Definitions, Restaurants and Bars, and Section 1754-0606, Parking Standards, Retail Trade Uses of the Placer County Zoning Ordinance in order to modify the requirement for the establishment of outdoor eating areas. On May 14th, 2009, the Planning Commission considered the proposed zoning text amendment and unanimously adopted a motion to recommend approval of this zoning text amendment to the Board of Supervisors. Currently, the standards set forth by the Placer County Zoning Ordinance for the establishment of outdoor eating areas are unnecessarily restrictive in that they limit outdoor eating areas by percentage of indoor eating areas, the number of tables, or the number of patrons. Any proposals to exceed these standards require the approval of a minor use permit. The Planning Department has prepared the zoning text amendment to modify these restrictive standards by eliminating the requirement of minor use permit approval and by modifying the standards for establishment of parking areas. Additionally, per the direction of the Placer County Planning Commission, staff has included provisions to allow restaurateurs to migrate existing seating from the inside of the restaurant to the exterior of the restaurant without the need for additional parking. The proposed modifications to the outdoor eating area section of the zoning ordinance will allow restaurant owners to establish outdoor dining capacity based on parking and will eliminate the need for further entitlements. The changes will also streamline parking calculations and will therefore make it easier for county staff to assess appropriate parking requirements. Current standards of the Placer County zoning ordinance limit outdoor eating areas to 25% of the indoor dining area, 5 tables, or a capacity of 20 people, whichever is more restrictive. Restaurant owners wishing to exceed these limitations have previously been required to obtain a minor use permit. Current parking standards for outdoor eating areas require 1 parking stall per 200 square feet of use area, which is half that required for indoor eating areas. Staff proposes to delete the capacity requirements of the outdoor eating area section, remove the requirement for the minor use permit, modify the parking standards of the section by requiring 1 space per 4 seats of the outdoor dining area. Staff also proposes to add outdoor eating areas to the definition of restaurants and bars in the Placer County zoning ordinance. Staff also proposes to include outdoor eating areas in the parking table. In addition to modifying the calculations for outdoor eating area parking, the proposal also includes a footnote at the bottom of the parking table that would allow seasonal outdoor eating per the Placer County Planning Commission. And this will read, seasonal outdoor eating areas established by relocating seating from the interior of the restaurant to the exterior of the restaurant that do not change the total possible number of patrons to be served shall not be required to provide additional parking required by this standard. The Placer County Planning Department brings forth the Planning Commission's recommendation that the Board of Supervisors approve this zoning text amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Supervisor Wagan.
So in a nutshell, if I'm understanding it, it was safe to say that essentially planning perspective is that we don't really care whether people are eating or drinking in or outside. It's a function of the total capacity and how that connects to the impacts in total of the project.
That is correct.
Any other board members have any questions? Yes, Ms. Montgomery?
I have had a number of constituents ask me to ask for a clarification as regards the wineries and tasting rooms. Will this allow wineries to have additional outdoor seating beyond whatever they're allowed now?
No.
So no additional vehicles will be generated from this?
No.
Great. They wanted me to ask.
Any other questions by board members? Seeing none, at this time, the vast throngs of the public that are here to address this item, I'd like to open it up to them. Don't all charge at once. Okay. We'll bring it back to the board for action. Okay. Motion by Supervisor Holmes, second by Supervisor Wygant to approve item 5, the outdoor eating area revision to the zoning code. And I as well want to thank staff for their work on this. I think Supervisor Montgomery's district is the most greatly impacted by this restriction, but mine is maybe not too far a distant second. So thank you very much for your work on this. Appreciate it very much. And at that point, we will, all in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, none. All right, we have one other closed session item to which to attend. It is item C. So we will adjourn to closed session. Following that, County Council will come back, report out, and then our board will take up a noon information item at the Cal Fire Station at 1360 Bowman Road in Auburn, where we will convene as the Board of Supervisors to hear an information item. Tony, do you have anything you need to add?
Yeah, I was informed by Mr. Boyle that apparently my prior report did not make it into the audio record. So for the record, when we previously returned from closed session, the board did discuss the Springer versus County case, and the board was informed of a successful resolution by the Ninth Circuit in favor of the county of that case. That closes that report.
Great, thank you. And Tony, you will report out on item C once we're done. Thank you very much.